All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Opportunities for a point of. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Opportunities for a point of. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Opportunities for a point of. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Opportunities for a point of. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Opportunities for a point of. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Opportunities for a point of. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson. All right, 6:06, we'll start January's meeting of Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Opportunities for a point of. We're missing, presently, we're missing Tyson.
It'll be currently just like we have now, where we have now application is complete, basically adding. It'll be currently just like we have now, where we have anything that will help to make it complete, basically adding. It'll be currently just like we have now, where we have anything that will help to make it complete, basically adding. It'll be currently just like we have now, where we have anything that will help to make it complete. That would be up to it'll be currently just like we have now, where we have anything that will help to make it complete. That would be up to it'll be currently just like we have now, where we have anything that will help to make it complete. That would be the land that we have discussed the last couple of months. It would be currently just like where the railroad track is. We were able to purchase that property. That would be the land that we have discussed the last couple of months. It would be currently just like where the railroad track is. We were able to purchase that property. That would be the land that we have discussed the last couple of months. It would be currently just like where the railroad track is. We were able to purchase that property. That would be the land
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm John Horton. I'm the city's finance director. We do have, it's actually a supplement. I'll get to that last. But it's not a replacement, it's supplemental information to the financial statements. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm John Horton. I'm the city's finance. Similar to what I do with the city, just doing a rundown. When we look at the EDC fund revenues, they are significantly higher than what we expect in the budget. That's primarily proceeds from a land sale. The sales tax revenues year to date, it's $41,895. That's just under 7% of budget. Similar to the city, we're a little bit behind tracking on that, but I don't see any kind of alarms to raise there. We see rental fees are at 27.1%. We're a little bit behind. EDC operations are at 18.8%, so we're still significantly under on our total operations. But if you look toward the last year, we're really trending the same on just about everything, except for the town center shopping, which I will touch on in a minute. Significantly under on our total. Currently, well, on 12/31, we had 640 days of fund balance. Year to date of $2,365,544. Now, just moving to the supplemental page, it's in landscape form. Year to date of $2 million. This has to complete a 5-year comparison, primarily focusing on the sales tax revenue. Just moving, you can see we have FY19, fiscal 19. That's our base year. We had a slight increase for 20. We had COVID, we had shutdowns. That was a pretty peculiar year. Between 20 and 21, we had almost a 12% increase in sales tax. 21 and 22 was pretty minor, just over 1, and then we had a 14% increase between 22 and 23. Our 5-year increase from 19 to 23 was just under 30%. Pretty minor, just over 1. Just some quick notes on the expenditure side of that. For the operations expenditures, there was a change in the philosophy on how we handled the admin fee from, well, I only went back to 19, but from 19 to 22, the admin fee was based only on wages and benefits for certain employees. Starting in 23, that calculation was based on full expenditures, which, although I wasn't involved in the decision, it seems more fair to me in the sense that there are certain software and certain other expenditures that departments take on in support of the EDC. Moving down to the next line, debt service expenditures.
John,
There are certain software.
the 246 in fiscal year 22 to the 555 in fiscal year 23 was software?
No, it was primarily due to a change in accounting philosophy on how support expenditures were calculated.
The 246 in fiscal year 22 to the 555 in fiscal year 23 was software?
No, it was primarily the percentage per department stayed the same. It was the multiplier that changed. Rather than just doing salaries and benefits, it brought in the total expenditures for each of the support departments. The percentage per department stayed the same. It was the multiplier that changed. Rather than just doing salaries and benefits. No, absolutely. I know I go fast, so I appreciate you slowing me down here and at City Council. This debt service expenditure line, it's a little misleading in that there was a change in accounting treatment. If you look, you can also see how the transfers out is significantly less. Expenditure line prior to fiscal year 23, the debt service that the EDC carries, a transfer was going from the EDC to the debt service fund, and the debt service fund was paying that debt. Starting in fiscal year 23, that debt was paid directly out of the EDC. Going from the EDC to the debt service fund, does eliminate a transfer. To me, it's a lot more direct, so we can trace that. It goes straight toward the debt, so they're paid directly out of. The more directness is something I can definitely appreciate. The next line, are there any questions on the debt service piece? So we can trace that. It goes straight toward the debt, so they're paid directly out of. The more directness is something I can definitely appreciate. Final thing I'll mention, the town center shopping expenditures, there is a bump from just around 60,000 in 22 to 73,000. That's primarily due to building maintenance. In FY '23, the town's actual expenditures for building maintenance exceeded the budget. Just around 60,000 in 22 to 73,000. That's primarily due to building maintenance. In FY '23, the town's actual expenditures for building maintenance exceeded the budget. Just around 60,000 in 22 to 73,000. That's primarily due to building. I'm here. Take advantage.
Was there anything in particular related to maintenance that caused it to go up, or is this just the CPI rolling down to us also?
There are two people here more qualified to speak on that than me, so I will yield to one of the two.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right.
Well, just to confirm with Mr. Hughes, we had a $19,000 increase off of lighting out the our antique mall. Is that part of it?
Yes, sir. Again, I don't know what numbers they're talking about, but as part of their renewal,
Yeah.
we had they wanted to upgrade their lighting. That lighting is 30 years old.
Yeah.
Part of the renewal and increase in rent, we paid $60,000, I think,
Yeah.
to upgrade their lighting. So that's probably
I knew it was lighting related, but I didn't have enough detail I felt to speak on it, but thank you.
sounds like the vast majority.
It is.
The build out.
Okay, on all these expenditures, is it possible from here on out to do a line item for each item? I mean, I know it's a lot of work for you and your staff and everything, but it would be a form of transparency to see where, what was included in all these expenditures, if that's possible.
I mean, possible, yes. I just want to make sure it'll be used because that is increased pressure and that is taking the staff. I mean, that's projects that we have to pause to go to this. So if it's useful, I'm happy to do it, but I don't want the staff to put out a product that ends up not being used.
I think it would be useful to be able to see from year to year or month to month what the expenditures were.
Well, year to year is actually in the budget book that is produced. So the year to year is available on the website currently. Month to month, we can work on that.
Okay, or once a quarter or something like that, once a quarter, maybe.
Can you identify what you're wanting itemized?
Well, like operations expenditures, okay, we're talking about salaries and whatever. I don't even know what else is under the operations. Town shopping center expenditures, we're talking about.
So you're not talking about getting down to like the electric or the landscaping? Is that, you want that detailed?
Right. I mean, how much is it costing to upkeep the buildings, the property, the land around, landscaping or whatever else we're doing.
And you want that every month?
Once a quarter or something, just to keep a level of transparency there.
I think if I can caveat off that same thing, I think something else to focus on is just for as an example, the lighting. It was how old before it was replaced recently?
2 decades now.
So my point there being, if this is something, when you look at the bump from 2022 to 2023 town shopping center expenditures, that's something I can assume that we're going to see a continued bump in, because these buildings are, I'm assuming this time around it was the lighting, next time it might be something different. It would be beneficial to have that, so as moving forward, we can be a little bit more strategic in our considerations of what the next step is for the future of the buildings. If we're going to see a lot of those in the next couple of years, it might be a consideration to do some large-scale renovations and actually save money over the long term, as opposed to these maintenance costs that go up. And I think that was the point of that information, is to help drive us in that direction.
I just encourage conversations like that. That's actually part of the budgeting process. So I encourage that to take place between April and September, when I'm here to ask for information on the budget.
We'll get that documentation, some of it, particularly for the 24, 25, or 23, 20, or, yeah, 23, 24. Those items are budgeted. We do have maintenance that's coming, and you'll start seeing some of those. I just wanted to make sure what you was actually looking for. If you want day-to-day operation stuff, obviously, we can put that list together. But if you're talking in reference to some of the major expenses that's coming out for maintenance, things like that, it's a little bit different. So I just wanted to get in clarity of exactly what you was looking for. But either way, we can still make it happen.
I think,
That's really not maintenance per se, that's a tenant renewal, that's an expense. So maybe what we need to do a better job when we're reporting to the EDC for the expenses, that we separate those one-time charges to renew a tenant that happens every 5 years, from just the normal increase in maintenance or landscaping costs. So, hopefully, if we could get this case in point here, that we could get Dollar General to move out, there's going to be a fairly significant cost to repurpose their own space. It is in, as we all know, terrible shape.
Yeah.
So we probably need to think about putting a line item in 24 budget or the next budget.
24 is gone. It would have to be 25.
There's going to be, it may even be 25 budget, but if they move out into a new building, there's going to be a very significant expenditure.
Do you mind coming up to the mic so we can make sure we're sharing all the information?
And while that's happening, John, so I'm sensitive to your staff being asked to spend 20, 40 hours a week, whatever, per month, putting together reports that may or may not get utilized. So let's look in the 25 budget, figure out how we can better automate that potentially, and or eliminate the toil, something like that to go along with it, not,
We've had conversations about software. That would help.
let's continue those conversations. Sorry.
thanks, John.
Evening, gentlemen. I think most of you know me. I'm Craig Hughes with Hughes Commercial. I'm also a partner in
Hang on
Kimmendale
just a
Development.
second.
I've got to announce you.
Oh, sorry.
Item 6, discussion of agreement with Craig Hughes and the EDC. Mr. Hughes.
Thank you, Mark, Mr. President. Again, Craig Hughes, Hughes Commercial Real Estate Development. I'm also a partner in Kimmendale Development Partners, who owns a number of these buildings out here in the management leasing company for Kimmendale Town Center. Couple things that we're looking and wanting to talk to you guys about today is a new build-to-suit for Dollar General. As we know, that building, they've been in there for 2 or 3 decades. It's tired, it's old. It's basically, in my opinion, it's kind of a stepchild in their portfolio. We're looking to hopefully consummate a deal with them. Maybe January 31st is the latest, to build them a new building in Building Site 2, which is in between the police department and their current building. So if that happens, we'll commence construction here soon and get them out of there, and then we'll get that back, and then the board can decide, what we need to do to repurpose it, refurbish it, demo it, or what have you. So that hopefully gets, we're working with them. The latest, as of last week, was they think they're going to get approval by January 31st. So if that happens, we'll, with your approval, we'll need to, do this deed of trust, which subordinates the ground lease to the bank for our financing, which is what we've done on every other building that we've built. So that, I think that's one of the agenda items today, that you'll have this deed of trust that is going to be required in order to get bank financing to do this build-to-suit. We insisted that they make this building comport with the theme of the Kimmendale Town Center, red brick. It's going to look closer to Building 7, which is the Dickey's Chicken Express building with the flat roof. It won't have that gabled roof. That green gabled roof is very problematic on putting HVAC systems on the roof. If you've noticed Building 6, which is the Mr. Wally's Pickles and the event center, we had to place all the HVAC systems on the porch, which is, it helps with, promotes theft of those units. You really want them on top of the building, and with that gabled roof, there's nowhere to put it. So in retrospect, that wasn't, the greatest design, putting those, that standing seam roofs on building 6. But, that's one of the,
Mr. Hughes, is there a map of the buildings and their numbers in
Yep.
tonight's packet?
yeah. Yeah, I usually have my board. This is the KDC building, so here. This is the building that we're gonna propose putting them in. This little pad side in between the police department, and then this will be building 3. You all might wanna.
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
I think we have one in our packet.
There's a map in there. It's after page 16 of 16. There's a be Exhibit A.
So if we can strike a deal, or hopefully when we strike a deal with them here in the next couple of weeks, then we'll get the plans and specs and get it into building permitting and go through the permitting process.
Does Dollar General have a deadline? This has been going on for 6 months.
So if you remember, Chief, we gave them a 1-year renewal.
Right.
We went to them and said, if you don't move, we're not going to renew you, basically. We'll give you 1 year to decide to move into a new build-to-suit, or you're gone. And, they're working hard. Their lease expires, I believe, July 31st. So we sort of had a gentleman's agreement. It's not in the contract. The contract says if you don't, your lease is up July 31st, you got to get out. I would think that we would, if they sign a deal and it goes beyond, it will now go beyond July 31st, we can allow them to stay month to month as long as they're pursuing a build-to-suit in the new spot.
Okay. I think it'll be important that we make sure prolonging it's not going to work either.
Yeah.
As you can tell, we're 7 months in, and in my opinion, we should already have an agreement with them.
Right. No, that's, unfortunately, that's kind of corporate America this day and age with financing and everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand.
No, I totally agree, Chief.
What about the building for right behind us?
Yep, so that's another exciting, so we've got building 3, we're pre-leasing building 3. We've got commitments for about 60% of that. In fact, we'll fill the whole thing up except for the restaurant space. I don't know, is this in your package? No. So this is a rendering of building 3, which is right in the middle of the center, just south of the AT&T, in between, just in that grassy area, right in the center. This is a rendering of the building that we're proposing. It's 12,500 feet.
I remember it.
Well, it's
Let's wait till we get back.
Microphone.
So like I said, we've got tremendous interest, actually. We've got the thing filled up. We've got a couple of restaurant concepts, a little breakfast concept that's in Pantico that they're in a very large space. They want to downsize they're in 5,500 feet. They want to downsize to 3,200 feet. Tremendous people. Bravo Eats would like to expand. They're busting at the seams, so they're looking to almost double their size. And then we've got this postal concept. It's kind of a USPS, FedEx, United Parcel, one of the, a mailing deal, they want 2,000 feet. And if we can consummate all those leases, that will fill up about 60% of the building. And what will be remaining is about a 5,000-foot sit-down restaurant with patio, outdoor patio, really nice sit-down restaurant, which, in my opinion, we desperately need in town center. So if we can, talking with the banker, she's agreed to provide the financing for both Dollar General and this new building. And we just need to lock down these leases and move forward. The building's designed, it's already gone through permitting. The permit is ready to pick up. We've talked with Mr. Hull about it. We've got some pretty stiff fees, some impact fees for traffic studies and some other things. That's, the permit's like $76,000 for things that might be applicable if it was a greenfield site. They're asking for, I think it was a $10,000 or $15,000 traffic study, which is normally used when you're putting a new curb cut in on a thoroughfare. We've already got the curb cuts. We've already got all the utilities run, so some of the impact fees seem onerous. And, we would like to talk about maybe getting some relief on some of these fees that seem to be applicable to, like I said, a greenfield site, but not so much on a developed retail center. We've already got all the infrastructure in place. Why are we paying impact fees again? Is kind of our thought. So we'd respectfully like to ask the board maybe to consider some relief on that in some way.
The bigger question, so as you can tell, for the most part, the EDC board, we have obviously 3 new members, and including myself to a certain extent. And one of the things that I have shared with everybody is our EDC contract agreement that we've had with you for the town center
Yes, sir.
development.
Right.
I know it's a lot to necessarily ask, but they've had the opportunity to read through it, and some of it obviously may not necessarily be at 100% of understanding what it is. Do you mind just kind of walking us through your process, your experience of this contract, how it started, and ultimately where we're at and where we're going to end?
Yep. Yes, sir, absolutely. So back in 2008-ish, probably 2007, 2008, well before our time. This was an old town center. They had a Dairy Queen that had been around since maybe the 60s, maybe 70s, 60s, and it was pretty rundown town center. Y'all built all these brand new nice buildings, and so the Kennedale Economic Development bought 8 acres, Kennedale Town Center. And they demolished you all demolished several buildings, retained the Dollar General building, and everything else was scraped. And you created pad sites. And then you went out to a developer out of Austin, Brian Johnson, I can't think, or got his Cypress Properties, and made an agreement that said, look, if you come in and build 7 buildings, ground up 7 buildings, we'll make you an economic incentive agreement where you have a purchase option to buy the ground. We'll lease you the ground lease. You come up with $15 to $20 million to go vertical on 7 pad sites that we've created, and then we'll give you a bargain purchase price to buy the underlying land. And to incentivize you to come in here and help us develop this. Well, the first developer built Building 5, which is the subway building. And he had it terribly leased. There was tenants in there that weren't paying rent. It was a failing effort. He gave up, and so we came in and bought him out, and assumed his development agreement that he had with the KEDC. So that's kind of how it started. As part of that agreement, in order to get bank financing, you're going to have to, the KEDC agreed in that agreement to subordinate their ground lease through this deed of trust to help secure financing. So we basically used, partly using the collateral of the land, which is, not insignificant towards, financing of the buildings. So that's what we've done with all the buildings that we've built to date.
So since then, we've only had 3 buildings built,
Yes, sir.
correct? Since 2007?
So we entered into that agreement 2015. So he was basically in default of the agreement, severely in default of the agreement. We came in and took over. We fairly quickly after we came into the agreement in 2015. First thing in the building 1, the KEDC building is building 1, the big 43,320 square foot building. It was Dollar General, and 75% of that building had been vacant for years, 6 or 7 or 8 years. I mean, there was a little manufacturing in there that was making soap or something, but basically it was a derelict center, underperforming center. So we bought building 5. The first thing we did is we filled up building 1 for you all. We leased it up, we put tenants in there, and got it 100% leased. The next thing we did is we threw out every tenant but Subway in the original building 5 tenants and released it all up. We finally got the community med center leased. It was vacant for 3 or 4 years. And then we built the 2 buildings, the Subway or the Chicken Express Dickies building, and building 6, which is the hair salon and Simple Simons. We immediately leased up building 7, the Dickies building. And then building 6, we hit the pandemic and it was rough going. That building sat vacant for 3 years. So we were paying a mortgage on an empty building. So it was pretty tough times. And we finally got that one leased. But now we're seeing a lot of momentum. It was a dead center that no one really wanted to be in. As we get things, we're now 100% leased, thank goodness. We're now seeing a lot of good traffic, a lot of volume, a lot of deal velocity. We think this building 3 is going to be a home run and, hopefully bring in some sales tax revenue and just general, jobs and investment.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe a couple of years ago, you came back and was that funding that you asked for? Was it for one of those buildings?
No, we never asked for any funding.
Okay.
We funded 100%.
Okay.
Of all development. We've never asked to modify the deal at all. The original deal that we bought into.
Okay.
But you said earlier, you really use the land as collateral for the financing of the properties?
Yes, sir. In order to get the bank comfortable, if we have a building on a leased land, so we're leasing the land for $1 a year.
Okay.
That was the original agreement that, in order to incentivize somebody to come in and invest capital in what was a rough area.
And how long is the lease for? For the
2030, May of 2030.
So May 2030, what happens?
So we have to complete all 7 pad sites. We have to build buildings on all 7 pad sites by 2030, and then we can exercise our option to buy the fee simple interest in the land.
So once building 3 and building 2 are done,
We still have 1 more left.
building 4.
Yes, sir.
So once those 3 are done, then you can exercise your agreement to buy the land, and then you'll have the land and the buildings themselves.
Well, we own the buildings.
Right, you'll have both then at that point.
Yeah, well, we'll have the fee simple interest in the land. underneath the buildings.
Fee simple. Do you know what, if this goes to 2030, how much would that be for the fee simple interest in the land?
Well, our agreement is we buy it for $1.
Still $1, even
It's
in
a nominal
2030.
price, but we have to go vertical in order to be able to exercise that option. That was the agreement. We got to come in, invest, and build. You know, each of these buildings are, you know, $3 million apiece. Maybe even 4 now. This building 3 is probably closer to 4 million. So as an incentive that was offered to the prior developer that we bought out to invest in Kennedale to create town center.
Thank you. Sorry. Just kind of thinking.
Mr. Hughes, you'll have to forgive my ignorance on this topic, but I'm scratching my head. I'm trying to follow. Take me back to 2015. There were some original liens put on these properties for the purpose of investing that money into the build projects. Is that correct?
Well, it was actually back in 2010.
Okay.
So as the prior developer, and then we came in as the developer. So as a new building is built, part of the original agreement was that KEDC would subordinate the ground to the bank in order for the bank to provide financing for that developer to build the building.
So essentially, you put a lien against the property so that you can take that money and invest it into building.
That's right.
Up. Right.
So each individual property is separately surveyed and platted. So each parcel stands on its own.
So the first time was 2010.
2010, yes, sir.
Okay. And then there were additional liens moving forward. Is that correct?
Correct. So
Most recently, 2021.
2017. So in 20.
In our packets, I'm seeing one here effective as of November 17, 2021.
Oh, so, okay.
And
So,
this specifically for building 5, 6, and 7.
yes, sir. So the building 5 was there was a lien put on building 5, the subway building, by the prior developer. We came in and bought it, and so we had to come to the council to get that lien, the paperwork switched over from them to us. So in 2017, we built buildings 6 and 7, so we came to, we got liens on pad sites 6 and 7. And then in 2021, our loan expired. We had a 5-year loan, and it expired, and so we switched banks. And so the lien it wasn't a new lien, it was just transferred from Liberty Capital Bank to Valiance Bank. So but there was some paperwork done, but there was no new lien, it was just transferred to that collateral was provided to a different bank when we refinanced.
So, and again, forgive me, I'm
That's
playing
okay.
catch up here.
That's why I'm here.
So with that refinance and those funds, how much of the funding is remaining available for the build on these projects?
So each individual building has a separate loan associated with it. Right now, Valiance Bank has all the loans, so they've provided, financing on buildings 5, 6, and 7. They're also going to, hopefully, I've talked to her today, they're going to loan us additional money to build the Dollar General building, pad site 2, and then the spec building, pad site 3. So there'll be 5 separate loans with Valiance Bank out of McKinney. We're probably pushing $12 to $15 million with them, with those 2 new loans.
So one of the reasons, just so you can understand, obviously I'm trying to get the full scope of everything here. One of the reasons I'm asking these questions is because one of the documents in our packet is the Economic Development Agreement for development of Kennedale Town Center. This one is, I believe, dated for 2015. But on page 6 of 16, there's a improvements phasing chart. And so I'm trying to just get a better understanding of how that, at that time, it seems like there was a plan. Yeah, this is 2015, July 2015. There's a phased plan here for moving forward to build these, to construct these buildings.
Correct.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around the lien and financing that was put into place to execute this improvement phasing chart, and how it compares to what's actually happened at this point, because now it's 2024 and there's 3 lots that obviously haven't been built on yet. And I'm just kind of matching up that phased plan at that time with where we are real time now, and the money that was the funding that was sought out to execute that. And so I'm just trying to put all those details together where it makes sense in my mind.
Yeah.
You can help me figure that out.
So when you say funding, there was no funding
By means of lien, I guess is what I'm getting at. If the liens were put on these properties to execute this improvement phasing chart, then I'm wondering, the buildings aren't there yet, so we haven't started. So I'm wondering where we're at with all of that.
Yeah, there's no liens on the undeveloped lots. So what we're asking for, today, I guess, is when we build these next 2 buildings, to subordinate the ground lease to the bank, to Alliance Bank.
So specifically, that's Lot 2, Lot 3, and
Eventually,
Lot
Lot 4, eventually.
2, 3, and 4.
Yes, sir.
You're saying that 2, 3, and 4 are going to require additional liens to be able to basically do the same thing that was achieved with 5, 6, and 7?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
If Dollar General doesn't agree to move it into the new building 2, what happens with building 2? Do we proceed and hope we get a tenant?
We just continue to market it to other users. If Dollar General doesn't agree, nothing happens, unfortunately, with building 2 at this point. Building 2 is frankly, is the toughest one. It has very little visibility. It's kind of, retailers like to be on Kennedale Parkway. So this, you got to find a company or a user that's a destination spot where people will find them, as opposed to driving by and see, oh, there's Simple Simon's Pizza, I'm going to stop and get a pizza. So building 2 has always been problematic, so that's why we were so excited to have somebody like a Dollar General. We've been looking for like daycares or, doggy daycares or something like that, where you're more of a destination and you don't necessarily need. But even those kinds of businesses really like to have that visibility to promote their business. So building 2 has always been we knew coming in 2015 that was going to be our toughest spot.
Random question, but have you ever considered putting in a Tesla supercharging station?
We have, actually, and we're still considering that. We get those calls all the time.
Because you would bring people in, they would be sitting for at least half an hour with time to kill. Let's go eat.
Yeah,
Walk around.
I guess the question is, and I don't know enough about it to be knowledgeable, but somebody's got to pay that electric bill for a free amenity. The companies will come in and they get subsidized somehow by the government to put those in, so they're making a lot of money and then they're gone. But somebody's got to pay that electric bill to charge those cars. And, that's kind of, is it worth the amenity? I mean, you got this gigantic, I don't know how much the electric bill is on those things. That, so we've kind of been, and they're sort of, the guys we're talking to are somewhat fly by night. I mean, there's just so many of them coming in wanting to do this, and they're getting this.
No, I think I would only do it with Tesla because they're going to become the standard starting next year.
Yeah.
Every car made,
If-
every EV made is going to have.
No, I mean, we're open to it. We haven't found the right folks yet, I
Partner to
think.
do it.
I think in front of Building 3, we got plenty, that middle parking area there, it's tight everywhere, up by Simple Simons and that area is really tight parking. We inherited that. We knew it was going to be a challenge on parking. We got plenty of parking in the middle, so that'd be an ideal place to do it. We'd be open to talking, if you have contacts with Tesla, we'd love to talk to them.
I'll call Elon and have him. I don't know. It feels like it's a way to get people off the highway into town.
Yeah.
They're here for 30 minutes, they leave.
They'd have to stay there for some time to eat or shop or something. No, we're definitely open to it. And we got plenty of room for it.
Mr. Hughes, I want to circle back real quick to the essentially a refinance in 2021 is what happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's talk specifically about Building 7. And again, I'm catching up, so
It's okay.
a lot of this is education for me. When was the renovations or building completed on 7?
So buildings, we started construction in 2017, I believe, on both buildings 6 and 7 at the same time.
Okay.
It took probably 8 months, 10 months to build those. We immediately leased up building 7 to Dickies and et cetera. And then building 6 sat there until for three plus years empty, 100% empty.
Okay.
So that was actually, you started construction on building 5 and 7, not 6, because 6 was just recently built.
No, sir. So we bought building 5, Subway.
Okay, that one's already built.
We bought
Okay.
that
All
in
right,
2015.
I'm good, thank
That
you.
was built in 2010, actually, I think.
So, okay, so I just try to follow my thought process, and it could just be completely wild. Okay, so Building 7 was completed around 2000.
Early 18, maybe.
18,
I'd have to go back and look. It's been a while.
So, okay.
Both
And
buildings 6 and 7 completed at the same time.
Okay, and I realize as you're planning, a lot of things will dictate the actual costs versus proposed costs, so the improvement phasing chart won't necessarily align with what it costs to finish the build out, because that was back in 2015. The build didn't happen or
Yeah.
complete until
And
18.
the phasing was, I'll have to go back and look. I mean, we had a plan, that we're going to build these in order.
Sure,
But in
sure.
reality, if somebody wants this building, you
Sure,
do that
yeah.
one. And so the order is sort of
I understand. Yeah.
subjective.
So I'm really dialing in here on numbers. So, and again, I understand things will change with the market and things of that nature, but the estimated construction cost for Building 7 back in 2015 was $762,000.
Oh, it's,
And then the refinance that occurred in 2021, and again, 2021 is after the fact that the building was built, but there's a refinance on that lien for $1.3 million.
yeah.
So I'm trying to understand.
So your lien is just, you're just subordinate the land, so it really is irrelevant to how much the building costs, if it's $1 million or $4 million.
But what I'm trying to key in on here is if the purpose of the lien was to invest in building the building, the construction of the building's completed in 2018, and we refinanced the original amount, which I don't know, it's not in front of me, but I'm looking at the building cost versus the refinance, and the refinance happened after the completion of the building. So I'm trying to make that make sense. I don't understand why we would refinance a lien on the property itself if there's no more construction for that property to be completed.
Yeah, so,
Just using Building 7 as an example, because that would be applicable for 5, 6, and 7, which were refinanced in 2021.
so when you refinance, that didn't put KEDC in any worse position. So you're pledging the land towards that building and that loan. So so actually, it helps you, you know, those numbers were arbitrarily low. I don't know where they came up with the first developer. These buildings cost way more than $750,000.
What was the original lien amount for 7?
But you're pledging the land. It's not whatever the value of the land was, $200,000 maybe.
I guess my point goes
So
back
we're-
to,
we're-
and
we're-
again, this might be learning for me, but what would be the point of doing that, though, is what
We're-
I'm getting at. What is the need to as a business owner myself, sometimes I will strategically refinance if it puts me in a financial position or gives me some liquid equity that I can then put towards another investment. That, to me, would be a reason to refinance. I'm trying to understand what would be the point to refinance for Lot 7, Building 7, if the building was already completed and the original intent of taking that lien in the first place was to build the building?
So the entire responsibility of that loan is on us. So if the original loan was for 5 years, and we got a better rate with Alliance Bank, so we moved.
But you had also said that the lien is against the actual property itself, is that correct? And you guys own the building and EDC owns the land, is that correct?
So there's a lien against our leasehold improvements, which is by far the most. So that building cost us $3.5 million to build. We put a ton of equity in it. And so there's leasehold improvements, and then there's fee simple interest in the land. So you've pledged your land, which is, you know, a quarter of an acre. It might be maybe worth $150,000 to $200,000. Us refinancing the building so you're only obligated for that land at $150,000. So we refinance for more money or less money, it does not affect you all at all. The vast majority of the lien is against the leasehold improvements, the building.
Is any of it at all placed on the portion of that property that's owned by EDC?
Just the land. So refinancing, I mean, you're still, you know, pledging the land, but the land is fairly insignificant towards the whole.
I think the bigger question, what's being asked, once you refinance or finance period with any of the land of EDC, did any of that funding come straight back to this development, or did you use that funding for other development?
It's solely for the building that we built on that land.
Okay.
So I'm not following that.
Kind of like if you're basically cashing out, I think the question is, was the equity cashed out or a portion of it?
But that's taking us to the,
Absolutely not. That's an easy answer. The bank banks won't let you do that typically. We didn't pull cash out.
Well, I think the bottom line is, I think what they're asking, did you invest that money? So in other words, what you're indicating is that we own the property. You took a loan out based off of us loaning the land to you for that loan. Did that money that you loaned based off of our land go to another development or for personal use?
No. So how it worked is Building 7 cost, I think, around $3.5 million. Building 2 shell was around $2 million. So we pledged. The bank gave us a value of somewhere around $150,000 to $200,000 per lot. That's about what it's about 15. It's about $10 a foot, and there was probably 15,000 feet, maybe 20,000 feet. So it's about $200,000 of collateral that you all provided us towards a $3.5 million building. So we had to come up with cash equity, and then we got about a 60% loan. So so when we built the first two with Liberty Capital Bank, and Building 6 was sitting there empty, when we refinanced, the bank actually said, this building's been vacant for 3 years, you're going to have to cough up some money. We had to come up with several $100,000 to pay down the loan to refinance. So not only did we not pull money out, we had to pay down that loan. They weren't going to loan us money on a new building.
if we default, I mean, after the bank gets paid off, you know, you have a right to own the building. I mean, you're second in line behind the bank, but there's still some value that, you know, if we default. But, you know, what we're talking about, you know, we appreciate the additional collateral. It's not so much the value of the land, it's that a bank won't loan money on a building unless they have a secure, you know, if they have to repossess it, that they can assume our position on the ground lease. That's really all it's about. That whole lien is not about value or collateral so much as securing the bank's position if they repossess it, that they own a building on property that's on a ground lease that they can assume and become the lessor.
And what's the value of the ground lease?
Well, it's $1 a year.
Right. Okay.
It's
So circling back to the beginning, tonight, we're discussing the agreement. You mentioned you were looking for some help on the impact fees. And coming back to building two, what's the decision before us tonight, if any? Or is this just informational?
I would suggest there's
Just informational.
two, you know, there's two areas of consideration that we'd like you to consider. One is when we build buildings 2 and 3, that you do the same thing. You pledge the value of the land towards the loan. And secondly, because this is a fully developed, for the most part, center, unlike a ground-up development where you're going to have curb cuts, you're going to have, you know, the sewer and water's already in. So we've already tapped into the, you know, there's impact fees. There's called, you know, water and sewer impact fees, which are very significant. So our permit was like $10,000, and all the city impact fees was like $65,000. And that's typical and normal and reasonable if you're just if you're just raw land. You know, when you do a new curb cut and you're putting, you know, you got to have a traffic study. Well, all the curb cuts are in. When you tap into a new water line, there's an impact fee that's paid. Sewer, same thing. We're already tapped in. But when we pulled for the permit, we were getting charged for these things, and it just seemed onerous to me that, you know, that we're sort of double dipping almost, being double dipped. And we're talking, I don't know, 30, 40,000 per building relief is kind of what we're looking at. And it's hopefully just waiving the fees.
Does the EDC control the impact fees?
Yes, well, the city does. You know, the EDC and the city are two different things, but
Correct.
The city will be the one that's doing that. But just like he's indicating, some of them is not going to be applicable for this. In other words, if a traffic study, that's not going to be, it's not feasible to do that. Some of the, for like the sewer lines, the water lines, there will be an impact fee associated with the building itself. But the impact fee for connecting to the sewer line that's on Kennedale Parkway, that has already been completed. So when he's referencing $75,000 of impact fee, by the time we get in it and start looking at it, didn't we figure around half? Probably around 30,000 mark.
30, 40,000.
Yeah. So some of the fees are going to drop off, just basically is kind of like the traffic study. The traffic study is not going to be needed at that point. It's already been completed.
Okay. And then, sorry, I know you're about to go, but coming back to the other topic you needed from us, the pledging the value of the land for the loan. So you need, because we own the land that that you're trying to build on, we would have to sign off on the loan with the bank. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you'll have to, this deed of trust, I think it's in your package, Ross.
Yep.
This is the same thing we've done on every building, and we're asking it to continue the same, you know.
And it's fair to say typically, when you're going that route. They won't engage with something like that without that kind of pledge. They're not going to fund for you to build on something that you don't have the approval to build on, right?
The bank's not going to loan us money.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay, thanks.
Craig, are you coming on behalf of wanting one of these for us to pledge? Because I wasn't aware of that. Tonight, basically, what I was wanting the board to see is the relationship that we have, obviously, with you and how we're moving forward and what we're trying to accomplish. But if you was looking for a pledge tonight, my apology, I did not realize you were.
No, I actually didn't realize there was a board meeting until just a couple of days ago, so I just thought it'd be a great, I mean, we're so close with getting 2 new buildings finally. I mean, the economy's here, let's take advantage of the deal velocity that we have, and so it was almost perfect timing that I could at least come and share with you guys what we're doing, kind of how the process works. I know there's a lot of new folks on here, and just let you know that this is coming down the pike and sort of, get the ball rolling on some of the lead items that we need for the bank and everything else.
Okay.
So, I'd love to, I don't know, sure you say, yeah, we're in, but I understand there's a process.
We have to have it on the agenda so we can vote on it.
So, I'm not real sure how.
Is there any current liens for lot 1, building 1?
You own that building.
That one's completely owned outright? Okay,
You own that building.
okay.
That's the only building we don't own.
So in the future, at whatever point, 2030 or whatever the year is, and we turn around and sell it for that dollar, EDC continues to own that property.
That's part of this record purchase process, the building one.
So it will go back to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Currently, so the two empty lots that we have now, the grass, or the 3.
Yeah, there's 3.
So the city currently has control over that?
Yes.
The parking lot is controlled by the EDC?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a cross access agreement that all tenants can park anywhere in the park. But essentially the answer is yes.
Even when everything's said and done, there's a little strip there that there's no exit. It's just one way in parking. So is that parking will still be considered yours, or is that part of the park or the plaza?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
It's right there at the entrance of the plaza.
Right in front of the clock tower. There's a parking, it's only one way in, one way out. Can I see your map?
I want to go straight toward the park and the fountain area.
It's this one right here.
Yeah, so that will be part of, I think that part of this goes to this building, part of this goes to this building. So there's a piece here. So there's this
That's
walkway.
the sidewalks on each side.
There's sidewalk right here and this building. So this is never part of the deal. That will always be KEDC.
Okay.
So
But not the parking.
But not the parking, yeah.
Both sidewalks are just that one segment? Because there's 2 sidewalks that take you to the section house.
I'll have to go back and look, sir, but basically, the walkway here is probably both sidewalks, I would think. I'll have to check, but there is this plus this building here, that's the Chamber of Commerce building, is not part of the deal.
Yeah, I was just concerned for the parking,
Yeah.
for the park itself. So.
Yeah, so that's always gonna be, you also, sorry.
We have to get it from me.
So, Mr. Hughes, I think this will be my last question.
I've got all night. I've got a hall pass from the wife, so.
January 2nd, 2030 rolls around, one of the buildings isn't done. What happens to the land?
We can't exercise our bargain purchase option.
Say that again?
We can't exercise our bargain purchase option.
You can't exercise your purchase option for the land for $1, but what would happen after that, though? Anything? Is there anything in the contract that says we buy, the EDC gets everything back? Do we assume the notes from the bank? Do you continue to manage it?
That is a good question. I haven't looked at that since 2015, so I'd have to go back and look.
Are those records available anywhere?
Yeah, you should have,
Yeah.
you have copies of all that.
The agreement's in front of us.
I looked in the agreement. I could not find verbiage on that. Maybe it was
In the 2015 one, I swear I go back and look at it, but I was joking earlier, it actually says 2060.
Yeah.
So you're looking, 2015 is the agreement, you got 45 years to come to full term on that. I'll look now, but I remember reading that
I'd
verbatim.
like to think that's the case, but I'm pretty sure that's not the case.
Yeah, give me one second here.
And I agree, I may misreading it as well. I saw 2060.
Yeah, and
2060 was an original number.
well, in
But
fact,
we did go back and we were talking at one time, and it may not be the right amendment. One time, we were talking about lowering that back, bringing it down so you finish out quicker.
Yeah.
so as far as what's in the packet, what you have is if you're looking at your attachments there, EDC Developer Agreement Town Center, that's line 2. All, the rest of these documents are all about loan modifications. There has been no modification to the actual agreement itself, and if you look at page 4 of that agreement, number 3 reads, term, this agreement shall be effective as of the date of execution by the parties. This agreement will terminate on December 31st, 2060, or as otherwise provided in this agreement. And, then too, if you go back to ground lease, here in definitions, ground lease means that certain 45-year ground lease pursuant to which, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you are looking at a 45-year, 2060 being the
We're gonna
year
be
that
done well
agreement
before
comes to
that.
term. But I'll follow that up with the question that, are you
Well,
open to considering any adjustments to these agreements and moving forward and doing business with some of the things that you're asking for now?
yeah, we're reasonable people, so I think we're always open to any reasonable suggestions. My personal goal is to get these next 2 sites built and under lease. And then all we have is the fast food drive-through right at where Subway is, Building 4. I don't,
In terms of, the art of the deal, and the way I look at this at face value for us, we don't make anything on the ground lease. So really the benefit of us helping would be getting the buildings built, getting
Absolutely.
businesses in them.
Yes, sir.
And then having people spend their money there.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we are getting absolutely nothing for the city.
Right.
And so as it stands now, this has been a long, challenging road to traverse. And so that's kind of why I'm asking if you'd come to the table, if we can get creative collectively and work together to, make this thing work and push through and get it done.
our interests are aligned together.
Which also with that, if you're taking out these liens and you have these burdens over your head, the same thing applies for you. You need the buildings built and you need people in the building spending their money so that it can monetize as well for the investment. So
Absolutely.
This may be a question for John, going back to the EDC finance, but is the go back to 22. No, I'm sorry, 23. Is the 708,972, is that the sales tax revenue from the businesses within the KDC? Within the town center? Or is that a larger pool of money or source of money, I should say?
That's the sales tax allocation. It's from the general sales tax collected in all of the city. The city as a whole gets 2%, or Kennedale localities get 2%. The city of Kennedale gets 1% of that.
Okay,
There's half of that goes to the EDC, and then half it says for property tax relief. So that's all within Kennedale's borders.
So let me rephrase the question. For the businesses that are leasing space within the town center, and this is kind of tailing off of Mr. Griffith's question, how much sales tax revenue has the city earned from those businesses? I'm trying to figure out when the break even is on this. So if we're gifting the land, we'll call it $1, you're investing the capital, but at some point we want to start seeing, the city wants to start seeing money from the money. They want to see revenue from the funds given to the EDC and get that money back. Because we have money also invested in this, right? The residents have given the EDC funds, however you want to look at it. When does that start to pay back?
As far as I'm concerned, that would take a decent amount of research because I would need to know the true names of all the businesses that hold leases in here and pull down what they've contributed into sales tax.
So let me just do a little calculation. Chicken Express is doing about, I'm sorry.
So let's just talk about Chicken Express. Let me get my calculator going.
Thank you, John. Sorry. Call you up on that.
So they're probably doing about $80,000 a month
Sorry, 80,000 in revenue or rent?
revenue. Their rent's 5,000 or 6,000, 6,000 maybe. So if they do 80,000 times point, well, eight and a quarter is the total. The city gets 2%. Is that right? Hold on. 80,000.
You should be able to, that report I sent to you guys a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Also, just, are you talking to sales tax or are you actually talking to, because my next question for Craig is the property tax. So the town center development, where's the property tax going? So it's EDC owns it, obviously, we're not paying a property tax to ourselves.
Right.
So are you, once you put property on there, are you indicating that you're paying that property tax? Or is there no property tax?
When we exercise our purchase option, then we'll have to start paying property tax.
Okay, so currently, and I think that might be where you're going, where's the property tax going?
Yeah, so it's a municipality, so it's exempt. So just on the revenue that's coming back to you, so just on Chicken Express, you're getting about 19,200, the city portion of revenue per year in sales tax.
Per year.
Per year, yeah. So you so you're getting, Mr. Wally's Pickles is paying sales tax, Dickey's is paying sales tax.
Yeah, but just to restate all this for the anyone watching at home, because we were kind of having this conversation on the side here. So there's no property taxes being paid because the EDC owns the land. So once you buy the land for $1, then you would start paying property taxes on it. And then we're discussing the sales tax revenue coming in from the businesses, but that's still probably a ways out before we see an ROI on that. And then as John indicated,
You're probably getting at least $100,000 a year in sales tax, the city.
okay.
I mean,
That's a great point. Is there a way we can maybe ask that we get that? Maybe John can provide that to us so we have a.
Well, I provided it to you a couple months ago.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We'll have to go back and just kind of pick out the businesses that are in the town center. And
Yeah,
then do
any
the
of them that have sales, so your city electric supply, probably,
They're on
they're
it.
paying sales tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the
Pretty
list.
much everybody, I mean, Dollar General, I bet they're paying 20 or 30 or 40,000 a year.
I sent to you guys the top
I
100.
know what you're talking about. And I would look through it. So
So, you're probably getting $250,000 a year in sales tax off the tenants in town center, I would venture to guess.
right. Just think if the city goal is to, backing up, so the city's giving the EDC millions of dollars, more or less. for a return on investment, or at least to grow the city out. Now, if it's a 20, 30-year roadmap, sure, the payback is there, and that's the way we should look at these debts, not look at them as every 6 months or every year how much we're getting back. Totally agree with that. Just trying to kind of figure out when did we start to break even, if ever. And it may not be something that we can even put a finger on. It may just be something where like it's just an intrinsic value that we now have a town center that people can go get a coffee at
The
and walk
folks that are
around.
moving in, that are shopping there, I mean, they're paying property tax on their homes, I guess. I mean, there's a multiple effect. It's, I mean, there's studies, I mean, the economic benefit of, putting in, I think you guys, the land and everything was maybe $3 million or something, back when.
That was the
But
land value.
to caveat off your point, I think trying to drive home here is, right, if we're waiting until 2060 for these things to mature so we can start regaining some of that ROI.
No, I'd say,
It would be better for us to
bet you've
maybe
been
come to
paid
the
back.
table and renegotiate some of the terms and try to push this a little bit harder and a little bit faster to get to that point.
I would argue that you've been paid back in full and then some already.
Okay. But if we can finish building 5, building 4, I'm sorry, not building 5, building 4, building 3, building 2, and then you have to exercise the right. Is that correct? So let's say you finish all 3 buildings, but you don't exercise the right in 2030. You say, I'm good to not do that. Let the EDC just keep not paying there won't be any property tax on the land. Is that a possibility?
I think we'd be foolish not to exercise the right. I mean, I never even really thought through that. Having the fee, I mean, it just makes everything so much easier when you own, and when it's on a ground lease, if we ever wanted to sell these buildings, it'd be very problematic. So I don't know that, I mean.
Well, but you could not exercise you could finish, I'm thinking worst case scenario, but you could finish the buildings, just sit on and say, we're not going to buy the land, we're not going to exercise the right, you guys keep the land, and then 20 years down the road decide you want to sell it.
Yeah, well,
Then you exercise the lease, then you just sell it outright with they're never paying property taxes on it.
if we don't exercise by, I believe, May of 20, whatever, I think it's May of 2030, we lose our right.
Okay. That's what I was,
I'll promise you, we're going to exercise our right as soon as we can.
understood. Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, I'd like to shift gears for just a second. So with these lots, 2, 3, and 4, it is, one of the challenges is knowing that you're going to be able to fill them once you build them. Do you have any businesses you're currently working with that you're prospecting to have as, to come in that are maybe working with you on designing the layout, things of that nature, so that you know that you have that business coming into the space?
Yeah, that's kind of what building 2 will be filled 100% by Dollar General. Building 3, we've got commitments for 60%, ready to go. Once we get financing and we've got the building designed and permitted, the permit's ready to be picked up by Nathan Gonzalez, or from Nathan. So we're ready to go. We've got loans, and we've got 60% pre-leasing, and our banker says, let's go. Those 2 buildings, except for the restaurant space, are committed. So all we got to do is find.
So a couple of those that I just want to key in on. One is Dollar General vacates building 1 and moves to building 2. We have a vacancy in building 1, so the revenue for that space goes away. We'll have to look at refilling that. The building is old and needs renovations, so we'll need to look at how that's going to impact us so it doesn't sit vacant for a long time. We need to preface that with a phased approach. If we know when the building's going to go up, when they expect to move in, then we need to backwards plan and figure out how we're going to renovate that space and prepare it for a new lease.
My recommendation is tear it down and start over.
I would second that notion, absolutely 100%, because long-term, you're going to save costs. Because right now, your maintenance costs on a building like that's going to be through the roof.
Yeah.
Specifically because it's lacked renovations over the years. But another one I'd like to key in on is, I think you had mentioned Bravo Eats, is that correct?
Yes.
That they plan and intend to move from the building space they're in to one of the newer ones, is that correct?
Double their space.
Have you been in talks with maybe another business that'll backfill
Yeah.
that?
That second generation restaurant space is highly sought after. To build that out again, brand new, is $300,000. So when they move out,
Do you have prospects already?
yeah.
that-
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's
Awesome.
probably the,
And so and I'm not sure that you want to disclose right now that the specific businesses that you have planning to move into some of the newer spaces, but you said 60% of it?
yes, sir.
that you
There's
have-
3 tenants. It's only 3 tenants.
3 tenants?
Yeah, there's, Bravo Eats is 3,200 feet. We've got Simply Divine Cafe in Pantego. We've gotten they've signed their LOI. We've not got a lease. So it's still, but she's downsizing from 5,500 to 32-ish. So her rent's going to go down. She's going to be in a brand new space. She's in a crummy building. She's kind of in a building one type situation where, you know, the roof leaks and the AC goes out. And so they're just continually feeding a building. You know, a commercial lease, you're responsible for the HVAC of the whole thing. And so she wants out bad. And then we've got this postal deal, 2,000 feet. And then, so we'll have one space left, a restaurant space. Now, that's going to be a little tougher. You know, we've got, you know, a Mexican food restaurant we've talked to, Carmen's. That's going to be a tougher space because it's brand new. And somebody's going to come in and that's a 5,500 foot space. So somebody's going to have to come in and spend $500,000 to lease that space.
When it comes to navigating some of these challenges, are there things that the EDC or council can do to help maybe bridge that gap or invite businesses to want to come and meet with
Absolutely.
you?
No, if you get wind of any businesses, you know, as you're talking city council and, you know, people come, you know, talk to the city manager about, you know, we're thinking about coming here, where can we go? We'd love to get those referrals and work those deals.
Now, even though that we own Building 1, is that something that is that reciprocal, that if you have businesses that might be interested in that space once Dollar General moves out, that you would help us?
You know, if we clean that
Inviting them to
space
come
up,
in.
that's a perfect size. It's an older building, so the rent's going to be a lot more economical than a brand new space. I'm pretty sure we could backfill that. I'd like to see a little kid venue. At one time, there was Mr. Dagenhart, I think.
Dagenhart.
Dagenhart. He and his wife are looking to do like a kid play. Those things are, I mean, I've got a little 8-year-old. Those things make a lot of money. That'd be a big, wide open space. That'd bring a lot of kids and family in here. I think that would be a great venue for that. You know, it's hard to renovate when there's a tenant in there. They vacate out, you go in there and clean it up. It's not going to be cheap, but you can turn around and then rent it for a lot more than what Dollar General's paying for right now.
Yeah, and I think a smart approach to that is once we figure out more finite details on Building 2 and when they're going to move, we can seek out
As soon as
someone
they
that would
sign
be
a
interested
lease.
in moving into a newly renovated space, and that might help us plan accordingly.
Yeah, well, we're already marketing that space to backfill them. It's kind of hard until you know they're leaving, but we'll get full force on it. It's 10,770 feet. That's a good size. We can be competitive with other brand new buildings. There's 4 HVAC units, and I think 2 of them are fairly new. So, you know, that's the big expense. The roof is brand new in 2018. So those are the 2 big expenses. You know, you guys put a new roof on it. That's fantastic. It's got a 20-year no dollar limit warranty. So roof maintenance should be 0. HVAC, you know, 2 other. We'll probably have to, a new tenant, you're going to have to spend $15,000 to replace at least one of the units.
So who's responsible for those maintenance costs?
It's the tenant's responsibility. So it's the landlord's responsibility in a commercial lease, the landlord's responsibility to deliver it in good working order and repair.
Okay.
And the tenant takes over. So if it craps out a year into the lease, the tenant is responsible for buying a brand new unit for your building. Now, smart tenants go in and say, well, how old's that unit? Well, it's
20 years old, and they're like, well, we're not taking that responsibility. So what we do is say, look, if you sign a 5-year lease, that unit's 20 years old, it's gonna crap out during your lease. So if it craps out after 1 year and you have 4 years left, we negotiate that you're gonna pay, you've got 4 years of economic life on a unit that's worth 15 years. So you're gonna pay 4/15 of the replacement of that unit, and then the landlord picks up 11. No tenant knows what they're doing, is gonna go in there and assume liability on the crap that.
So they're responsible also for like exterior, storefront, or?
Responsible for the roof, walls, and foundation.
Oh, okay.
And the tenant's responsible if somebody breaks their glass out of the front, they replace it. If their toilet breaks, they replace it.
Okay.
If their HVAC goes out, they repair it. If it completely craps out and it's replaced, that's when you negotiate. And you negotiate that up front.
Thank you, Craig.
Yep, Mr. Hughes, thank you. I don't have any other questions myself.
Now, we finally got some momentum. I mean, pandemic really, we didn't lose any, well, we only lost one tenant, and that wasn't due to the pandemic, and Friday guy, we had to. So we didn't lose any tenants. We took a hit when COVID shut it down. They didn't pay rent, so we just took it on the chin. But we did lose anybody. I think we finally got some momentum. I mean, we got some good deal velocity. I mean, we gotta get this building rebuilt, and we need, so that'll leave us basically 2 tenants left. 500-foot restaurant, sit-down restaurant, which we could use any and all leaves, and then a fast food drive-through right there on the go past I-4. That's going to be a 2,000-foot fast food drive-through. You know, I'd love to have an AT&T, a single tenant, 2,000-foot single tenant. Verizon, or somebody that needs a drive-through. Got 2 tenants left.
We'll get it filled.
You have any more questions for Craig?
Get rid of the salvage yard. That will help tremendously. Been preaching that since time of business. Uphill.
Well, thank you again for coming in. I appreciate your time.
Hopefully, we can be up here really soon again on the next release for the Dollar General.
We haven't had a groundbreaking since 2017. We're way overdue.
Yes, sir.
Way overdue.
Speaking of groundbreaking, I do have one extra question now that you mentioned it. When these new businesses are coming into the city and opening their doors, and forgive me again, I just don't know, but has the city or the Chamber of Commerce or EDC hosted any kind of ribbon cutting ceremony or things of that nature to kind of keep that invigorated spirit and that inviting spirit?
Answer is yes, but that was 2017. I don't even know who your Chamber of Commerce person is, never once called. Back when Jack Thompson was here, he was very robust, he was very proactive and pushing, not so much now.
If that was something that we were interested in, would you make those introductions and kind of work on the timeline of when they actually have their first day of operations, and we can celebrate that with them?
Yeah, we do them.
Yeah, that's yeah, what we do is we send every new tenant, we'll introduce them to every other tenant. We actually cross-sell each other, have business cards and, the farmer's insurance for, and vice versa. And we try to create a community. We're all partners in this thing. We want everybody, our success is predicated on
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. Look forward to turning some dirt.
Item 7, Veterans Memorial Update.
I want to refer that to Mr. Griffith, please.
Yes, so we've had several meetings. I've given a few updates at City Council. Most recent update would be that Daryl and myself had a meeting with MMA. They're like a civil engineer type firm. They're going to work with Daryl on the specifics for, I believe, the meeting was about their initial proposal, but I think Daryl's working with them to tailor it specifically to what we need so that we're not taking a bigger bite than we need to at the moment. And what they're going to do is they're basically going to help facilitate the work that my committee is doing so that we can come in with a presentation that's worthwhile that can speak specifically to how the desired work in the center of the park is going to impact the rest of the park. Some of the moving parts that we've discussed, some of the needs that are in the park that would be a good opportunity to address them because it'll end up costing us less money in the long run. If we're already coming in and hiring companies to do some of that groundwork there in the center, there's some drainage issues, things of that nature. There's been discussion of relocating some portions of the park to make it a little more accessible and a little bit more functional. We've invited KKB to participate, and so there's some options being discussed about maybe relocating the Veterans Memorial to that side of the park where the butterfly garden currently is. And then what you have when you come in is you actually have your 9/11 Memorial plus your Veterans Memorial in the same space. So you have a little bit more reverence and things are kind of in their proper place. And some of that will require KKB to come in and work with MMA on where they'd like to relocate the butterfly garden, things of that nature. So those are kind of some of the things that we're working on right now. Our plan is to actually come and present first to EDC, to work closely with EDC and also with KKB before it moves to the March meeting to present to council. Once we get to council, we want to make sure that we have input and guidance, any requests that are necessary or questions answered before we get to council, specifically with EDC because EDC owns the park, and then KKB because of the impact to the butterfly garden. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We've already saved roughly $20,000 on some survey that we had that's still ongoing. We haven't gotten the files yet, but Lone Star Drone is working on that. They're a veteran-owned business out of Arlington, and they pledged their services to save us some money there. The survey is something that we would need for any projects that we do in the park. So the savings, not just the upfront costs that we've saved on, but also future costs for any future projects that we decide to do in that space. So the survey will already be done. The files will be given to Rayanne, so we'll have them archived and accessible for future use. And unless, if you guys have questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer.
What are the estimated costs we're looking at for this project? What budget are we? We had initially had an initial budget between 50 and
85.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So one of the things that we're working really hard on right now is, one, with the money that's already been earmarked for that centerpiece, that will certainly address the center of the park. There should be more than enough to achieve what we're trying to achieve there. With that, in our presentation, we're going to be giving an estimation of costs for the other pieces of how that project's going to impact the rest of the park. That way, and those things will come to you before they go to council, so you guys can actually get a look at it and see, and we're hoping to work together collectively to figure out how to fund that. One of the things that we've discussed I'm not sure if you all are familiar with Veterans Park in Arlington, but they have a foundation there that's done a really phenomenal job at raising the funds to actually build those monuments at no cost. I won't say no cost, but they've almost eliminated the tax burden by going out and doing the fundraising and getting donors involved and creating opportunities to raise funds for those things. And so in a similar fashion, we're hoping to achieve that as well. And, you know, to have a communal partnership in getting this thing done. But when we present, those estimations will be presented. The centerpiece can be completed with the funding that's already earmarked. And then the rest of it will be presented in a phased approach so that we can budget accordingly and create time and space to generate those funds.
Okay, thank you. Gerald, we don't have, we're done, no executive session?
No, sir.
Didn't think so. All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Thank y'all.